For me, and I've talked about this comp many times before because there are a lot of comps. And in on one level, I actually don't even want to comp him to anybody because I think the upside, the ceiling is so high. Like I think the ceiling is all-time great where people in a few years start to get compared to him. I do feel that way. Um, but I coming out, I said many times that Steve, Randall Cunningham was always a comp that a lot of the analysts used, but Cunningham was not the same as a thrower. He just wasn't. Now, size-wise, body type-wise, yes, but Randall always had this wind-up throw. That's not Jayden. Jayden's a first-class thrower of the football. Randall had a big arm. Not saying he didn't. To me, there are two players that I will list as ceiling and floor, and they're both, really good all-time players. The ceiling for me is Steve Young. I think Steve Young, a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Jayden play very similarly. Now, remember, Steve Young was shorter. He was on the 6'6", 1" kind of height. Steve Young also didn't really get his opportunity until he was like 30 years old, 31 years old, because he played behind, after playing in the USFL, played behind Joe Montana. But that 3 or 4 year stretch when he took over for Montana, 92-ish, they played Washington in the postseason that year. In 92, unbelievable game at Candlestick. The 49ers survived. Then they lost to the Cowboys in the first of the three Jimmy Johnson impacted Cowboy teams. He wasn't obviously the coach of the last one. Barry Switzer was. But Steve Young, I've always felt, is almost underrated as one of the greatest quarterbacks. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer. When he retired, he had the highest passer rating in NFL history. He was a great thrower of the football in every sense. Quick game. Obviously the 49ers were very West Coast based in sort of the attack, but he threw quick game in an outstanding way. He could throw the deep ball. He could throw the intermediate ball. He threw with great anticipation. He was really smart. And then as a runner, in that moment, before Vic, before, Lamar, before, Josh Allen, he was there with Randall. He was there with, guys like Tarkington and Staubach. But Young was different, man. Young was elusive, eyes in the back of his head. You just couldn't get to him. He had great speed. He had great wiggle in the open field. And then he was competitive as hell, too. Like if it came to it and he needed to lower his shoulder to get an extra couple yards for a first down, he did it. I almost don't want to limit him on the ceiling to Steve Young, but at the same time, first ballot Hall of Famer. And for me, I've always felt like Steve Young's got to be in the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. I don't care that his greatness didn't start until later in his career. He was super elite. And had he played the entire way, had Montana not been there, I mean, we may view Steve Young in a way that we view Montana and Brady and others, because he would have been the starting quarterback on a lot of those Super Bowl winning teams. I mean, Montana always ranks higher than Steve Young, as I think he should. But Steve Young, I think always doesn't, you see him on lists. He's in a lot of top 10s. He's also on some lists, doesn't get mentioned until 14 or 15, somewhere around there. Steve Young would be, I've mentioned him many times when it comes to Jayden. It's also the intelligence part too. Like Jayden is super intelligent, super into it, really competitive. He's a right-handed Steve Young, best case. I think his ceiling is actually a little bit higher, but in terms of the greatest runner-passer combinations of all time, I mean, we may ultimately just say it's Mahomes and or Allen, because I don't think Lamar is Jayden's ceiling is higher than Lamar's. It's higher than Lamar's. He's a much more natural thrower. He's a much more natural anticipation thrower. There's a big difference between Lamar Jackson, even now, off the best season he's ever had throwing the football, and Jayden. So Steve Young, I'm going to leave as the ceiling. The floor is another lefty. The floor to me is Michael Vick, which wouldn't be that bad. I mean, it's not like Michael Vick didn't have, an incredible career. I almost went with Randall because Randall had a very long career. Randall was like a 5-time Pro Bowler, finished in the MVP, runner-up situation 3 or 4 times. But Michael Vick, I took two lefties. Remember, Michael Vick missed some of those years, when he was in prison. But Michael Vick would be the floor. Like, I think 5 Pro Bowls. Hold on. I looked this up earlier. He's the second all-time leading rusher in NFL history behind Lamar Jackson, who passed him this year from a quarterback standpoint. Michael Vick could throw it. Now, I always felt like Michael Vick could throw the deep ball better than he could throw anything else, that he sometimes was inconsistent with the easy stuff. But Michael Vick had a long career. Michael Vick was a massive factor in his seasons. That would be the floor for me. Vick is a higher floor than Kyler Murray at this point. Maybe I'm going too low on the floor, and maybe I'm not going high enough on the ceiling. But there are my ceiling floor comparables for Jayden. 2 lefties, Steve Young, ceiling, first ballot Hall of Famer, Michael Vick, the floor. Michael Vick, let's not forget, after he came back, he had played more years after he got out of prison than he had played before. But what he was trending towards in Atlanta prior to that was perhaps something approximating a Hall of Fame career. He had made the Pro Bowl. I've got it now. He had made the Pro Bowl in every single season in the NFL in which he had played a full season. And he had been injured a couple of times and didn't play a lot as a rookie. Didn't start but 2 games as a rookie back in 2001. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Max, ceiling, floor, Jayden Daniels.
So the ceiling for me is I'm only going to go with guys I've watched like in my lifetime. But the thing for Jayden is like he's such a hard worker, and there's only like so many guys who have that kind of in them. And so Peyton Manning would be like a more athletic version of Peyton Manning is what I'm trying to say his ceiling could be.
But we're trying to comp it not just to success, but to stylistically. They're the opposites stylistically.
Yeah, I hear that. So Russell Wilson is kind of like my big comp to him, just because how
as a floor.
Yeah, more or less. Like if it goes the way that Russ's career has gone, but I think Jayden has got the a better head on his shoulders than Russ. Russ kind of gets caught up in the limelight, caught up in the spotlight and all that, and it goes to his head. Jayden is the type of guy to like just put his head down, keep working. So in terms of like the work ethic is kind of why I bring up the Peyton Manning comp.
Okay. All right. So you got Peyton Manning as the ceiling?
More or less, yeah. A more athletic Peyton, yes.
That's not your best effort. I love you dearly, but Peyton Manning's the opposite stylistically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. In terms of like natural thrower and just learning the offense, like putting your nose into the book.
But Peyton was never going to rush.
No, that's absolutely true.
Rusher.
Which is why I throw the more athletic out there.
All right. By the way, I considered Russell Wilson for the floor for me, but Russell Wilson has never and will never be the thrower that Jayden is. Russell Wilson's biggest issue throughout his career has been height. He has not been able to see the field, consistently enough, which is one of the reasons, he would start to move quickly so that he could see the field. Now, Russell Wilson as a runner before the last, few years, he was a great off-schedule quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame off-schedule quarterback. Russell Wilson's career is going to be interesting when it is all said and done in terms of whether or not we view it as a Hall of Fame career. That's for another day. But I actually did consider Russell Wilson for the floor, but I think Vic, I guess Vic would be a lower floor than Russell Wilson career-wise, probably.
Career-wise, yeah, but in terms of like just athleticism and the natural, the like, I'm here on the scene, this is my time type thing. Like, because that Vic was unmatched, because he took the league and the world by storm.
The PFF Kyler Murray thing, I don't see it at all. Kyler Murray is legitimately 5'8".
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what his listed height is. You can look that up. I'm going to guess he's probably listed at 5'11", but he literally is 5'8", 5'9" tops. That's not, it makes him have to play a certain way. Look, he is a brilliant playmaker at the quarterback position. I mean, in terms of this last, 7-8 years, however long he's been in the league, what year was he drafted? 2018?
Yeah.
2019, whatever it was. In terms of just creating something, out of nothing, but he, like Russell Wilson, can't see over the line of scrimmage. It's his biggest problem. So he's got to be a playmaker. He's got to be an off-schedule quarterback. Jayden will never have to be that. Jayden's nearly 6'4". He's 6'3" and 5/8 or whatever. And he can see it. And he can, the way he throws it, he will never have an issue with that kind of vision. Kyler Murray, to me, is a terrible comp for Jayden in any way, shape, or form. I also don't think Lamar's a great comp. I just think Jayden's a different quarterback than Lamar. Look, Lamar's speed, his flat-out speed as a runner, maybe all time. Is there a faster, great running quarterback than Lamar Jackson all time? I don't think so. But passing-wise, no.